All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. Happy Geography Awareness Week. This is the very last event at WashU's Geography Awareness Week. We do Geography Awareness Week activities every year. It always happens the week before Thanksgiving. And Qgis is the last workshop on the docket. Um, We have had some other workshops this week, some of which you may have attended. We had a couple of ArcGIS Pro workshops, both in an introduction to and a transitioning to ArcGIS Pro, intro to our spatial workshop, geocoding and network analysis with StreetMap Premium. And we also had a panel this morning, which was amazing and fantastic, on mapping social justice. So now we are at the QGIS workshop. All of our workshops and events, we have another big week coming up in February called Love Data Week. And if you're interested in more data workshops, you'll find those at this URL here, which has all the library's events. So now I would like to introduce the data services team. Some of you may have met us before. I'm Jennifer Moore. I'm the head of data services. Doris Scott is the social science data curator and GIS librarian. Molly Webb is our GIS programmer. And Bill Winston is our GIS analyst. So lots of GIS lovers on our team, lots of geography lovers as well. So you can find information about our team on the library's website. Our page is library.woostel.edu/data. And there you can learn about our core services, but I'm going to walk through them right now as well. So we provide data analysis, consultation, workshops, etc., both qualitative and quantitative, data curation. So that's to help you prepare your data for sharing and preservation. Data literacy, so we help people learn to find, assess, argue, manipulate, all the things with data that you would need to know going into it. Data management, so organizing and having good practices for finding and reusing data, data visualization, communicating with data, and of course, geographic information systems. So and that is what today is about, and that is what we're going to focus on. But in general, as a team, we like to take, if you look at the image here, we take data that looks like this, and we make it look like this so that we can communicate a message. I want to make a note that one of the resources that we provide is the Research Studio, which is located in Olin Library, and it has specialized software that users are able to access to do certain data tasks. So things like ArcGIS, we have in vivo there, a number of other things. And while that isn't physically accessible in our current state of life, it is available remotely. And if you follow the link to this, you can find how to use that resource. And if you haven't already and you're interested in taking GIS courses at WashU, we have a number of them available, and we also have a certificate program, which the requisites for getting that certificate are listed here. We also have the program coordinator in our audience today, so he would probably be able to answer any questions that you have about the certificate program. But there are also courses that are taught in a number of other places in the university, including environmental studies, anthropology, the Brown School, Sam Fox, you name it. And we have a number of research guides available. We have one for all of our core services. This is a link to the GIS, the main GIS research guide. And there's information in there about software, getting connected to the data that we have on campus, tips on how to do typical things. There is a GIS user guide in here as well. I'm sorry, a QGIS user guide in here as well. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about QGIS if you're new to it. It's user friendly in that it is, you're able to use it on a number of different operating systems. It is a community built open source platform that has been improving over the last many years. And it is, sorry. So it can do a number of analysis functions with both vector and raster data. The latest release again is 3.16, and I am using the long-term release of 3.10.11. So again, has everybody had an opportunity to download QGIS if they are following along? Just give me like a check mark in the participants bar. So the problem we're going to work on, I am interested in how my neighborhood has changed over recent years. So the demographics of the neighborhood is changing, the housing values are changing, and I want to look at specifically the relationship between income, uh, commercial properties, and housing values in my neighborhood. So the data that I'm going to use are block groups for the Maplewood, Richmond Heights area. Income data for 2013 and 2018, and parcel data for 2012 and 2020. Now you may be noticing that the data are not exactly the same years, but for parcel data, the closest one that I could get to the oldest available income data on the census proper was 2012, and the most recent income data I could get on the census proper was 2018. So I got the years nearest to that. And I'm also going to use the school districts, and time permitting, we're also going to put in a streets layer. So I did do a few things before this workshop. I prepared the data that we need to use, and I'm not going to have everyone do that in this workshop, mostly because it takes a bit of extra time, and I would like to stay focused on the QGIS aspects. So, but I do want to tell you about the things that I did. So when you download a census table from the census, there it comes down, if you look here in the table below, it comes down with a very long identifier that includes the information that I need to bring this table into GIS and join it to a spatial layer, but it doesn't, but it's more than I need, so I have to do a little bit of editing. So let me just step back for a moment, just in case you're not familiar with how GIS works. When you're working with vector data, which we are in GIS, you have features that are the representations you see on the map. And then those features have attributes, which is the information that tells us about the feature. And so those attributes are organized, as you can see in this top image. That feature information is organized in a table, and that each feature has a unique identifier so that we know which one is which. And using this unique identifier that represents the shape in the map, we can connect a table from the census. So that's what we're going to do. And you can see that the identifier that is in the shapefile up here looks like this, and the identifier that's in the census table looks like this. So I have removed the numbers in the census table that are not needed for the join. And not only are they not needed for connecting it to the shape, they also will cause the connection not to happen. So it's more than not being needed. It would actually be something that would make it not happen. So I think that will make a little more, will connect a little more with it when we actually do the join. But so we're not doing the cleaning that is already done for us. So the first thing we need to do in the workshop is to create a folder where we'll save our data and our project. So if you wouldn't mind, somewhere easily accessible. Often when I'm working in a workshop, I save to the desktop for the time being, and I'll create a folder that has no special characters and no spaces. So for example, my folder is called Qgis Qgis Fall 2020. So whatever you want to call your folder, but have it somewhere it's easily accessible, and make sure the data that you've downloaded is in that folder. Another thing that you have to do once you have the data in the folder is, and I don't think you can see this yet, so I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment so I can share a different screen. Bear with me. So I do encourage you to have the slides open, so in case you need to reference them. Okay. So once you have your data in the folder that you need, um, okay. So once you have the data in the folder where you're going to save things, if you want to extract the data that I shared in Box, how you do this depends on which operating system you're using. So if you're using Windows, you can generally right click on the file and say extract all. If you're using a Mac computer, you can just double click on the folder and it extracts. Okay? Give me a thumbs up if you're all good with where we are.
Hey, Jennifer, just to confirm, is the data in the box folder?
The data is in the Box folder. That's right.
Okay, I'm going to drop that link in the chat one more time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Okay, I'm going to move on. And if you don't stop me, I'm not going to stop. So tell me if you want me to stop a minute. Okay. So I'm going to launch QGIS. And I'm going to save my folder, or save my project to the folder I created. So MRH, oops, that's not where I want to be. I'm going to call it MRH income and housing. So notice I have no special characters and no underscores in this. So I'll open up my project. So that is step one in our workshop slides. Actually, that's 1 and 2. So notice the next slide, if you're looking at the slides, is a great big save sign. I want you to remember to save as often as possible. Um, like all GIS systems, QGIS can crash. And if you're saving often, you're more likely to, you know, have the most work done saved. And behind in the background of every slide is another reminder to save. So I want you to just keep the idea of saving in mind all the time. So the next thing we need to do is we are going to add our vector features to QGIS. So in QGIS, there is a ribbon along the top that has most of our tools that we need to use, including a data manager, an open data source manager. So if we open that, notice on the left-hand side, it asks you what kind of a file you want to bring in. And we are going to bring in vector data. So we want to have vector selected on the left. And then we can navigate to our data set. And the first thing we'll bring in is the St. Louis County parcels. And so in some GIS systems, when you are bringing in a spatial data set, it will combine all the different pieces of the spatial data set together. It doesn't do that in QGIS. So when you're selecting which file to bring in, you need to select the one with the dot shape extension. Now, for those of you who are new to GIS, I want to, if you remember no other thing that I say today, even though we're only clicking the dot shape extension, we need every one of those other files. So if you get a cleaning spark in your body, don't clean out the other files. They're important and they have to stay together with the one that has the dot shape extension. So it's like dot shape and friends. But to add it to QGIS right now, that's the file extension we need. So we're just going to double click that and we see it appears here and we can add it. Now it's going to add on the left, but the window will stay open and that's good because we have other vector things to add. So, but if you keep clicking add, you'll just keep adding that file. So be cognizant of how many times you click that. So I'm also going to add the 2020 files and add. I'm going to add the MRH block groups for 2013 and 2018. And I'm going to add the school district. Okay, so I've got all of the spatial data that I want to add right now added to this folder. So if you look at the next slide, we also want to add the tabular data that I mentioned that I got from the census. So that tabular data is in a CSV file. So I am going to go to the delimited text option in the viewer menu, and it says what file format. CSV is what I want. I'm gonna navigate to my income tables. So I'm going to add each of those. And one thing you have to be sure is selected when you are adding this table is that there is no geometry in the table. So we are just going to take in a CSV with no geometry and add, and now we'll do that also with the 2018 table. No geometry, CSV, add. Okay, so that's all the data that we need right now. How's everybody doing out there? Any questions? Okay, so notice in my table of contents in this layer list over here on the left, there's a couple of question marks on my layers, and that's because it's not sure about the spatial reference. I want all of my data layers to be in the same spatial reference, and the commonly used spatial reference for this area is NAD 1983 State Plane, Missouri East FIPS 2401 feet. So I'm just going to click that and say okay. And I'm going to do that for the other one too. And so now all my layers should be displaying in the same projection. All right, I'm going to move to the next thing. So now that we have our St. Louis County parcel data, um, there's a lot of data here, and really I'm only interested in the data in my neighborhood. So I'm going to use the school district for Maplewood Richmond Heights to select the parcels that fall into my study area. I'm just going to turn the block groups off right now because I don't really need them. I'm going to go to at the top, there's a list of tools. I'm going to go into the vector tools at the top and research tools and select by location. So my target features are going to be my parcels. So I want to do it for both years. So I'm going to click that. The method I'm going to use to do this are parcels that are intersecting with the feature that I'm going to use to overlay onto it. So this select by location is basically we're using one layer to find the relevant parcels in another layer. So the layer I'm going to use to find the relevant parcels is my school district layer. So we're creating a new selection, and we can go ahead and run that. So let's turn off the school district for a second and just scroll in. And I think I might have done 2010 first. Now, this is a pretty friendly software in that it just lets you, when you have your select tool or your hand tool selected, you can just drag it around pretty easily. So notice these parcels in the 2010 layer are selected within the district of Maplewood Richmond Heights. Now, I don't really care for these ones that are a little bit outside of it. If I wanted to remove them, I could, on a Mac, hit Command, and on Windows, hit Control. Sorry, my Zoom controls are in the way right now. I want them to move over here. So I'm just going to, up in the menu up here, again, at the toolbar at the top, there is an icon for selecting. It has a yellow box with a white arrow on it. I'm going to click that. I'm going to hit Command because I'm on a Mac. And then I'm just going to click the areas that I don't want as a part of this data set. Another thing that you have to do in order to do this is you have to make sure that the layer that you're working on is the one that's highlighted in the table of contents. So just click that and you can remove parcels that are not in the area that you want. So, you know, we don't have to be 100% perfect on this particular thing. I'm removing them, but you know, they won't cause a lot of unhappiness if they stay. But it's just cool to know that you can like modify by hand. Okay, um, so once I've done that, I'm going to right click on the layer I selected from. So that's the layer, that's the parcel layer that has the highlight in it. I'm going to right click on that and go to export and choose save selected features as. Now, if you accidentally chose save selected features, you have to remember to go down to this encoding piece and check save only selected features, because what will happen if you don't have that checked is you'll just create a copy of the full data set, and all we want is this area that MRH is in. So I'm going to call this I'm going to make sure it's going to my folder first of all. And I'm going to call this MRH parcels 2010 and save. And then I just want to make sure that I'm using the same projection that I'm using in my other files. So I'm just going to click on that and say okay. So again, if you're new to GIS, projection is a big concept, but it's also a big deal. So like having it right is important, but given the scope of this workshop and the amount of time we have today, we won't go into it in depth. So just trust me when I say it's important, and we're going to try to use consistent projections throughout the workshop. I guess I could give you a brief description, which is that projection, you know, takes the globe and mathematically transforms it into a 2D plane. And so we have to use the same math on all of our layers so that they can intersect with each other and compare properly. Okay, so we did the 2010 parcels. Now we're going to do the 2020 parcels. So we're just going to do the same operation we did again. The first time we're going to do that again. So vector, research tools, select by location. And now we're selecting from the St. Louis County 2020 parcels. And we're still comparing them to the MRH school districts. And we're still intersecting. So we'll run that. And we get another selection from this other layer. We can do the same thing with removing our kind of outliers to the extent that makes us comfortable. And then right click, export to export save selected features as, and then we will make sure we're in our folder and name it MRH parcels 2020. So I'll save that, make sure I've got my coordinate system, and okay. And then I can turn off the St. Louis County parcels, and I can see now that I have my 2 layers here. All right, are there any questions right now? Is everybody doing okay? Okay. All right then. So that has taken us through step 4 of the workshop. So we're now on slide 20. And this is the step where we're going to join our income tables to our feature. So again, I'll just show you one more time in our block group layer. So let me turn my block groups on. So if we open up our block group layer and look at the attribute table, you can see we have not very much information. Really, the information that we have about this layer right now is just really about its shape. So the thing that's important that we need to take note of is this column, which is the GeoID, and that is a unique identifier. And each one of the block groups in this layer has its own individual unique ID. I actually love census unique IDs because of the way they're constructed. So in Missouri, 29 is our state number for in the census. That's what Missouri is always coded as, is 29. And then 189 is the number for St. Louis County. So that's the county number. So if we were in St. Louis City instead of St. Louis County, this would be 29,510. But because we're in St. Louis County, it's 29,189. And then it has the census tract number, and then it has the block group number. So I just really love that that I can see the layers of geometry just by looking at that unique ID. So that's what we see in the spatial layer. And so if we open up our income table for the same year, you see we also have that number, but it's because I edited out these extra numbers, which are more about the country. So the GeoID here now in the table, I edited it so it also starts with the state number. So now we can use the column that's in the spatial data to join the data that's in the table together, and then we can show that table on the map. So to do that, I'm going to go to I'll do the 2013 first. So I'm going to right click on the 2013 block group. I'm going to go to the properties, and then in properties, there's a join button in the left hand column on in the interface. And at the bottom, there's a plus sign, which allows me to join the table to that shape. So I'm going to click that. And so it is going to make a suggestion about which table I'm trying to join. And you always make a habit of checking, especially if you have multiple tables in your workspace, always make a point of checking that you have the correct table up here. So I'm joining to my 2013 block group, so I want my 2013 table. So my join field is going to be GeoID2, and my target field is going to be GeoID. And I'll say okay to that. And that join has happened, so I'll say okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my 2018 table. So right click, properties, joins, plus sign. Now notice I'm doing my 2018 block group now, but my 2013 table is the one that it's offering me. So I have to make sure to change that. GeoID2, GeoID. All right, and okay. So now, if we look at those, open the attribute table, we can see that that census information that we had in a table is now connected to our spatial feature. Everybody do okay with that? Okay, I'm going on. So the next thing I want to do, what I want to show in this data is all the households who make fewer than $50,000 per year. So the income is broken down into groups of 10,000, 20,000, etc. And I'm going to have to aggregate them into a single column to find out the number of people that that are fewer than 50,000. So what the first thing I'm going to do is go up to my table menu and click this, and we're on slide 21 if you need to look at that. Go up to my table menu at the top and click on this add field dialog. Can you all see the add field dialog? I'm going to assume you can if I don't hear otherwise. And
Yes.
thank you. And so we have to give the field an output name. So we're going to call this output sum less 50K, because we're adding up the columns that are less than 50K to make a column that represents them all. We want that to be a whole number because the data is recorded in whole numbers, and we're going to get a whole number as a result. And then we're going to go over here in our middle part of the interface where it says search. If you just click on fields and values here, it'll expand all the fields that you have available to do this. And so I know, and again, this is just one of those moments where I'm going to ask you to trust me, because what we really need to do to know what these fields mean is look at the metadata, and we have the metadata that we could look at. But what I'm going to tell you is that the first column here, this one that ends in 001E, that is the total population. And then starting at 2E, it's population under $10,000. So I am going to double click 2E. I'm going to add the plus sign, and then I'm going to go down to 3E. Now, here's another important thing. You need to grab the fields that end in E, because that's for estimate. The M is for margin of error. Now, still important, we still care about it, but we're not mapping it. So we're not going to grab it for this expression. So I'm just, every time I go through, I'm going to add the plus sign and then go on to the next one that ends in E. And I'm going to do this through 10. So where did my plus sign go? Plus sign. And if you are so inclined, it is also in the slides, so you could copy it in. But make sure if you copy it in that you don't get any extra characters or anything, because this is an SQL query, and they are it's a very particular expression. And if you make a mistake, like add an extra plus sign or add in characters that are not in the data set, or use the wrong syntax, it'll just not work. So just be careful about what you add. And notice every time my statements are incomplete in this expression, I had a little like angry red message at the bottom telling me that things weren't the way they should be. But now it's not angry. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I've got my plus signs, and they're all E's for estimates. So I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to scroll over, and you see I've summed up the columns of 2E through 10E. So those are the whole numbers of of how many people make less than 50,000 in each block group. Now, because I actually don't know how useful it is to have the whole number, I'm going to get the percent of people in each block group that make fewer than 50,000. So I'm going to add another field with the field calculator. And this time I'm going to call my field percent PRC less 50K. Notice I still don't have special characters, and I still don't have spaces, and it's very particular about it being a short name. So I have to be, economical in what I name it. Now this time, because I want a percent, I'm going to change my output type to a decimal. And I am going to go back into fields and values, And I'm going to take that sum less 50 column and I'm going to divide it by the total column. So that is the one that ends in 001E. And okay. And now I have a percent for the number of people that make less than 50,000 in each block group. How did everybody feel about that? Everybody okay? So another thing I'm going to do now, so that was an editing thing to do. So I'm just going to click this little pencil in the corner and that'll toggle my editing. And I'm just going to click save so I can save my edits. And I'm going to close this table. So we did that, I guess we did that for 2018. So now we need to do it for 2013 as well. So, you know, the nice thing about doing two layers at a time is that it lets you practice this more than one time. So open the attribute table, add a field. We'll call it, the first one, sum less 50K. And we want the whole number and fields and values. And we're going to start with 002E plus 3E plus 4E plus 5E plus 6E plus 7E plus 8E plus 9E plus 10E. And okay. And then I am going to do another one. So again, this will be percent less 50K, decimal number, and fields and values, sum less 50K divided by 001E. All right, so that's done. Now, why? Why did we do it all? Why do we care? Well, again, I want to show these values on the map right now, what my map is showing. Oh, let's not forget our editing. So if we if we right click on our layer, go to toggle editing and save edits. So right now I have a single symbol representing my block groups, but I want those block groups to show the percent of people that live in those areas that make less than $50,000 per year. So now I'm going to use that information to symbolize those fields. So I'll double click on my layer. I'll go to, let me make sure we're on slide 22 in case you are following the slides. So I can double click on my layer or I can right click on it, and I'm going to go to Symbology. And at the top, I'm going to change my method to graduated colors. And my value field is going to be percent less than 50K. I'm going to give it a green ramp. And I'm using green because it's money values. I generally don't like to choose very strong colors, but I need to have something that is different from our parcel values, which are going to be on a grayscale. So I like this green choice. I'm going to make my method or mode of symbolization equal interval, but sorry, not equal interval. I'm going to make it standard deviation. So I want to see in each block group how far from the mean each variable is and how far they are from each other. So right now, what it's showing us is the people that have the fewest number of people that make less than 50,000 are in the lighter colors, and the areas that have the most people that make less than 50,000 are in the darkest greens. So I'm going to do that also for my other layer. So I go to Symbology, graduated, percent less than 50,000. I want my green scale, and I'm going to do standard deviation. So the distance from the mean and from other values. And so I will say okay to that. And so then I have it for both of my block groups. Okay, so we have gotten through step 22. Now we're going to go, I'm sorry, we've gotten through slide 22. That was step 7. Now we're going to do the property value step. We're on slide 23. So I'm just going to turn off my block groups for a minute. And go back to my parcels. So what I want to do with my parcels is I want to create a layer from them that is just single family and duplex and townhomes. So to do that, I am going to do something called a select by expression. So that means I'm going into the table and I'm asking the software to return to me specific values from a given column. So if I go to the select by expression dialog up here in the menu bar, it looks like it has an expression symbol over a yellow box. 2020 parcels, fields and values, IUC code equals single family or value code equals. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to close that. And now I'm going to export this layer, this single family and duplex layer, to its own layer. So I'll go to export, save features as. I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it MRH, single family and townhome layer for 2020. Make sure I have my projection. Oh, you know what? I think I didn't make sure I was going to the right location. So that's something that you have to do as well, because it's, yeah. So I'll try that again. MRH, single family, townhomes, 2020. And okay. So then we have a layer of that. So, and then I'll go in, I'm going to clear so if you want to clear a selection up here in the toolbar, there's a yellow box with an X through it. That is our clearing selection button. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did with those parcels for 2010. So select by expression, fields and values, LU code equals, and we want single family, and then our OR operator to combine another expression, and equals duplex and townhome And now that's selected and we can close it and export it. Save selected features as, navigate to the place where you're saving things. And maybe they're 2010, but I think they're 2012. Okay, SFTH. Okay, save. And then our projection and okay. All right, so now we have features that just represent the single family and townhome areas. So I want to symbolize by the housing values, and I want to use housing values that make sense in terms of like how we think about buying homes. So this time when I symbolize the parcels, what I'm going to do, I'm going to again go to properties. Let me see what step we're on. We're on step 24, or sorry, slide 24, step 9. So we're going to go to again graduated symbols. This time we're going to use a field called tot app val, or total appraised value. We're going to double click that, and then actually I didn't mean to double click. We're going to choose that. I'm going to now choose a gray color ramp, and I'm going to classify by equal interval, but I'm actually going to change the values in each class because I want them to end on round numbers that I recognize as like values that I might that people kind of reference when they're buying a house. So I'm going to change it to the first ending value to I need to actually to 100,000. I'm going to change the second ending value to 200,000. I'm going to change the third ending value to 300,000. And oh, I missed one, didn't I? No, 200, 300. Oh yeah. And then the next one to 400,000. And then I'm gonna leave the last class just to capture everything that's above 400,000. So I can click classify. Oops, I should not have done that because I just went right back. Sorry guys. Sometimes I do autopilot things that are just wrong. Okay. Okay. So now, if this is for the 2010 group, if we scroll in, we can see that there aren't many in our top class that are above 400,000, a lot more in the kind of middle ranges. I am going to do one thing on here. I want my this group to be more visible. So I am going to just double click on this symbol and change the stroke line to be a lighter line so I can see it a little better against that black coloring. Okay. Everybody doing okay? Kind of feels like I'm alone here, but I know you're out there somewhere, right?
I'm here.
Yay. Okay, good.
Yep, we're here.
All right. So that's what we did for 2010. We'll do the same thing for 2020 for the single family houses. So we'll turn that on. And then we'll go to properties and symbology, graduated. The value is tot app val. We'll do equal interval 5 classes, but then we'll change these to match the other layer. So there is a function in QGIS called pretty breaks, which does rounding, but it never quite does it how I want it to do it. So I'm not using it. So again, our last value is 400,000 to whatever the end of the data set is. So again, I'll make that a grayscale. And I'll say okay. And now there's a lot more there. We're seeing more higher valued homes in more areas. I'm still gonna change my area that's the blackest into, with the line being a little more. Oh, that might be too much. It's okay though. All right, how's everybody doing? Fabulous? It's the best thing that ever happened to you? Okay. I'm gonna hit save because that's a good idea. And now I'm gonna go on to slide 25, step 10. Select from the 2020 parcels all the commercial parcels, and let me tell you why. So I want to find out how many homes from the earlier parcel data set have been transferred from a single family home or a duplex or something to commercial property. So to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is select from my county layer, oops, not my county layer, from my MRH 2020 parcels. There they are. I want to select from them everything that is commercial in 2020. So I'm going to go back to vector, do research tools, select by location, and I am going to, sorry, I don't want to do select by location. I want to do select by expression. So still the same layer, but now I want to do select by expression. And I'm going to use that same field we used the last time, LU code. And I want to say LU code is equal to commercial and select features. Try that one more time. So fields and values, LU code equal all unique, commercial, select features. Okay. So now all the commercial parcels are selected from the 2020 layer. So I'm going to close that. And now I'm going to go into the 2010 layer, and I'm going to use select by location to find all the values, or sorry, not the 2010 layer, but the 2010 single family ones. It actually doesn't matter. We can do either one of them. I'm just seeing what I actually wrote down. So we're going to use just the 2020 parcels and the 20 MRH 2010 parcels. So I'm going to do vector research tool, select by location. So now I am selecting from MRH 2010. And that intersect with MRH 2020. But this is very important, I only want to select selected features. So check that box underneath of the MRH 2020 parcel saying that we're only going to use selected features. And we can run that. And now if we turn off the 2020 parcels, we should have the commercial parcels from 2020 plus any parcels that had been a different value but are now commercial. So what I'm gonna do is export that. So I'm saving the selected features as, oops, I do want a shapefile. And I'm gonna call this home 2010 commercial 2020. Okay, and save that. Make sure I've got my projection. And then I'm gonna clear all my selections. Okay, so let's see where we are in our slides. Okay, so what I wanna do is in my, we're on step 26. So I want to symbolize my commercial properties in each layer and in each full layer. And then I want to show where the ones that were changed over, I want to show that in a separate layer. So what I'm going to do is we'll do MRH parcels 2010 first. We're going to do a single symbol, or sorry, no, we're going to do categorized. And the value for the categories is going to be the LU code. And then the symbol is going to be a crosshatching. So I'll choose that, but I want my crosshatch color so that it is visible against the other colors. I'm going to make it a yellow color. So I'm going to do that for, if I hit classify, I'm going to do that for just the commercial properties. So I'm going to remove the other properties so they are not symbolized that way. So let's turn that off a second. So then you can see those symbolized that way. We can do the same thing for the 2020 parcels. Okay. So then we have the commercial parcels for each. Now in 2020, we also want these ones that used to be homes. So, and so we'll symbolize them also with a crosshatch, but with a red one. So then you see all the commercial properties plus the ones that used to be homes. Okay. So let's see how we're doing here. We have a lot of layers here. Let's just turn on just a second to see what's going on. So we've got our 2010 parcels. We want to let's turn on our 2010 single family values. And then we can turn on our 2013. We need to, so one thing that you should know about GIS, the order in which they're listed in the layer list over here is the order in which they'll appear. So if I want my block groups on the bottom, I have to move them to the bottom. So this is what, in 2013, we don't need this on because we just need to see our commercial and our homes. But when we do the 2020, we'll turn on the other one. So just in case we're going to skip step 27, because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to do our layout, which is going to be our next step. How is everybody doing? Mary, we will share the recording on our YouTube channel, which we will send out to attendees after. Was there a question? Everybody good? Okay. So now what we're going to do is a layout. So let's all hit save. Right now, just have your layers from the older layers, not the most recent layers on. So that's that is we want to have on our MRH single family homes from 2010, MRH parcels from 2010, and MRH block groups from 2013. So with those on, we are going to go up into our project and say layouts, or sorry, new layout, not new report, new layout, new print layout. So I'm going to call this MRH income housing map. So this will let you open up your print layout and edit just the layout. It's why we would save it. And so I get a fresh canvas that opens up. Now my map workspace is still open too. And so I'm just going to pull from my workspace into this layout. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to go to add item. Actually, I think, let me double check here. Okay, yeah. So we're going to go to, we're on, by the way, slide 28, step 13. We are going to go to add item and add map. And then we're going to click and drag our cursor to draw a map layout. And if you want to adjust the data inside of that, you just click on this little page with arrows inside of it, and you can adjust the data inside of the frame. And then if you use this little polygon with an arrow inside of it, you can drag out the corners etc. You can also make changes over here in the item properties. So if you look in the item properties, you can see that you can change the scale and rotation and extents and things like that, and size, position, frames, all the things that you might want to do to change the way it looks. What I want to do right now is click lock layers. So I'm going to lock those layers. And then what that does is it allows me to bring in the other frame that that I want to show. So right now I'm showing my 2010-13 data, and I want to be able to show my 2018-2020 data over here. So, but if I don't lock my layers, it will not, if I tried to bring that in now, it would show the same data for both maps, like they would both update, if that makes sense. So, and we want this frame to be different. So that is the goal. Okay, so now we'll go back to our workspace for a second. And need it to come back to me. Sorry, I don't know where it went. Oh, is it tabbing? Maybe it's just tabbing. Yes, okay. So it created a tab. It used to not do that anyway. So now I've gone back to, so my layout is in one tab and my project is in the other tab. So I'm going to turn off everything I have on now. And I am going to turn on my more recent data. So, and I need to move my block groups down so I can see my data. And then I need to make sure I turn on my commercial home to commercial layer. Okay, so now that I have this one ready to go, I can go back to this map and I can add another item to this layout, I mean. And if I want to make sure that they're about the same extent, I can, or the same scale, I can change the scale over here. So I see this one is at 23,390. And let's see if I can see what this one's at. So before I can make any changes to anything, I need to lock my layers again. So I'm not going to worry about this scale right now. I'm going to come back to that when I'm ready to change again. So now let's go ahead and move on to, so that on slide 28, there's a big bold note about that. Like anytime you're working with one map or the other, you know, you have to make sure that the layer the layout that you're working on, the frame, is unlocked, and that the data that's on in your project is the one that belongs in the relevant frame. So that's I know that sounds a bit cumbersome, but it is how it is. Okay, so in slide 29, we are going to go ahead and add our legend to our layout. So I'm going to go over and all the tools you need for adding map essentials. So when we talk about map essentials, we're talking about a title, a scale bar, a north arrow, credits, which include who made it, what data, when, why, and the legend. And the legend is really important, especially in a map like this, because people need to understand what these symbols they're seeing mean. So I'm going to go to legend. I'm going to add a legend here. Now, as much as possible, I want to be able to use my legend for both things. So as much as I can, I'm going to try to make it so it reflects both things that are true. So, but the first thing I need to do over here in the right is in the item properties, I need to go to legend items and turn off auto update. And with auto update turned off, I can start selecting layers and removing them from the legend, things I don't think I need to show. So I'm removing my tables. I'm going to remove the school district because it's not visible in this layout. So there's no reason for me to symbolize it. Now I do need these two. Do I need St. Louis County parcels? No, I don't. So I'm going to remove St. Louis County parcels. I am going to now notice in my MRH parcels 2010, I've got legend items for all of the things, but I didn't really symbolize all the things in the map. So I can remove all the things that I'm not symbolizing. Okay, and so I'm good with that for right now. I might come back to that in a sec. I just want to make sure I get all of my layers that I need in. So once I kind of get through doing all these things, I can look closely at how to like make the legend work for both of these maps. So the first thing that is different is that I have two scales for my parcels, and I think I would like them to be just one scale, so so that I don't have to I can use the same legend for both. So I'm gonna go into my parcels, and in my it's the wrong. I'm gonna go into my block group. Hold on, let me just pause for a second here. Yeah, so I'm gonna go into my MRH single family duplex layer. And so I'm not gonna change the values, but in the legend, I'm just going to call this 400,000 plus, so that then when I go back over here, and I need to refresh. Did I say? So this should update. Oh, I think I need to do this. Yeah, so now it says 400,000 plus. So then I can use both of those for this, this legend for both things. So I'm going to remove this one, and I'll change the name for that one to be, do it back here. And I should be able to do it just in this legend. So formally you had to change, there we go, the name in the layer in the project to change this, but now we can just change it in the legend items. So MRH single, well, we'll just call these homes because they're both single family and townhomes. Okay. And then so for our MRH parcels, we can remove our 2010 because we symbolize those the same way. And we can call this sorry, like you have to watch me try to fight for it to bring up the thing I want. It all seems like I'm not, but you saw it work just a second ago, so maybe I'll just come back to that so I don't go crazy trying to do that. There we go. I don't know why my brain couldn't do that. Okay. MRH parcels other, I suppose. And then this one, I'm going to go back to my legend item here and rename this from a layer name or from a file name to a layer name. So homes now commercial. And go back here. And then, so again, with our block groups, we should have in both cases standard deviations. So it looks like the 2013 are not symbolized by standard deviation. So I'm just going to go check that and make sure. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, so now they're both done by standard deviation. So we can use the same legend for that as well. So I can remove one of those and call this percent less than $50,000. And then my legend is a lot more, a lot easier to see. I don't think I need this parcels 2010. So now our legend is easier to read. It's a bit more manageable. And it can work for both maps. So now let me see. I want to see what the scale is here. 22553. I'm just going to change this to be the same scale. 553. And then we can use the same scale bar. So to add my scale bar, I can go over to again, the tools on the left. And by the way, we are now on other map essentials. So that is slide 30, step 15. So currently it's in feet. I can change my units to miles. I can change my style to a style I like better. I can, this is all happening in the right in item properties. I can change the width and make it fit a little better. Okay. Might be a little too wide. So you have to be selected. You have to be like selecting the item in your layout to make changes to it in the item properties. So make sure when you're trying to change like a legend item or something, that's the thing that is selected over in the item in the map so that you can change them in item properties. Okay, so we've got our legend, our scale bar, our now we need to add a title. So we can do that with this text box here. And once you put it in item properties on the right, that's where you can type things in. So I'll call this MRH income and property in 2010 to 2013 and 2018, 2020. And then you do the font amending here over here. So you can select a font color. I want to go out of this. You can change the size here. You can change the style, etc. You can change your alignment. Etc. And then, so we need our north arrow. So if you, over in the tools on the right, we can add our north arrow. This is a real improvement for QGIS. In the past, you would select north arrow and then you would have to, go through a directory listing separately to find the image, but now it just draws on the layout pretty nicely. And then our last thing to add to this is the credits, and I think that is where we'll end today so that we can stop and have time for questions. Oh, and we'll export it. So I'm gonna put the credits here, and I would probably adjust this a bit, but I'm gonna say map by Jennifer Moore. You don't have to credit me for your map. In fall 2020, GAW, using, and I need a little more space for all the data sources I have here. So right now I'm just going to put census data 2013 and 2020, St. Louis County data 2010. I really think it's 12 and 2020. And then the last thing I want to add is projection. NAD 1983 state plane. Missouri east, FIPS 2401 US feet. And I think I'll make it a little bit smaller since I don't have a lot of room for it. And then I'm gonna spread it out a bit. And there you have it. We have our map essentials. And now what I'm gonna do is hit save. So we can save our layout as well as our project. So MRH, income. I wanna make sure I'm going to the folder I like. Income, layout. And using this PDF button at the top, I can export it. Now, I know if you're someone who's used ArcMap before, you may remember that it's in the layout where you can tell it what you want the resolution to be. But in Qgis, that is over in this kind of right hand pane before you export. So but it is an export setting that you can set up, so you can check whatever you want to check and change the DPI and stuff here. So when I go to the PDF here at the top, I'm literally just going to export it to a PDF, and then see if I can open it up. Hi, those of you who are still here. How are you doing?
Looks good, Jennifer.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Thank you. Did everybody stay with me?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, great. Do you have any questions?
I don't. Thank you for asking.
No problem. All right, well, we can, stop here. I can stay around for questions.